Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little review of Joss Whedon's The Avengers from 2012, also known worldwide as Avengers Assemble. I loved this movie, let me say first and foremost. And, there's a lot of different reasons why. I mean, I've heard this called the greatest superhero movie of all time. I've heard it called the greatest movie experience of all time as far as summer blockbusters go. And that's definitely right on the money, but I think the thing that this movie did was bring all these different characters that we know from their own films, put them all in, one big crock pot, but while it was stewing and while it was telling a brilliant story, it kept the pieces, what we knew of them, what we recognize of them from their own movies. It kept that alive as well, and it just did it in a perfect, rhythm and syncopation. I just absolutely loved that when we see Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. He's very much the quippy guy we know from his movies, but we actually have a moment when one of the team falls, and I won't spoil that for those who haven't seen it. He has a very somber, sobering moment, if you will. And this is something we've seen before in his own Iron Man films. And I absolutely love his performance during that whole scene, during the whole movie. I mean, it's arguable whether he's actually playing an extension of himself, which I've often said about, the actors who have played the Doctor with Tom Baker and Matt Smith, playing extensions of themselves in their roles. And that's something that's often been said about Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. And we have that in this movie very beautifully and very hilariously, but we also, as I say, have this sombering, sobering moment, and it's just fantastic. From him to Chris Evans embodying what made Captain America so stand out. I mean, he was definitely brought across as a man out of time, but he's also used to commanding, and we see that in this movie a lot, which butt heads with Tony Stark. Somebody in one of the special features on the disc actually said, you forget everything this guy has played up until this point, until he's played Steve Rogers, and you see Steve Rogers on the screen. And I have to absolutely agree. He embodies this character. And of course, Chris Hemsworth just nailing it once again as Thor. I mean, he just embodies this regal sense. He is definitely Thor, the embodiment of Thor, as far as being just this towering powerhouse. And every movement that he has is a weighty one. Everything he considers is done with such gravitas. He definitely personifies Thor on the screen. And I was thoroughly pleased to see Samuel L's, Nick Fury, as well as Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, definitely holding their own in this film as well. I mean, you would think they could get lost in the shuffle with the big players that are involved, but they were big players themselves. And the same can definitely be said for Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye. He was definitely a large chunk of the story as well, and he totally heroed it up. I mean, I was buying him as being a member of this team as soon as he started, kicking ass with it. One person I want to speak about is Mark Ruffalo. This is a guy, I think his role was the one that I was wondering about the most because, of course, I was used to seeing Edward Norton playing the Hulk in this particular universe, and while I enjoyed Edward Norton, and up until I saw this movie, I would have said Edward Norton was the top choice as far as Bruce Banner goes. I have to say, when I leave the Avengers, Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner is the Banner I want to see from now on. I just feel like everything was represented there as far as the scientific side, the doctor side of Bruce Banner, as well as the whole rage monster thing. It was just pitched to perfection. And if we do not get a series of Hulk movies with Mark Ruffalo headlining, it will be a tremendous tragedy as far as I'm concerned. Another thing I like about this Hulk is it's the first one that I've seen on screen that facially resembles the actor portraying the character. He transforms into a giant green rage monster, but he still has characteristics that you can see in the performance that is the actor who plays the human flesh and blood Bruce Banner. Whereas in the previous films, the Eric Bana film, as well as Edward Norton's, I didn't feel like you got that. I feel like, once he became the Hulk, it was just something else. Whereas this is very much an extension of Bruce Banner in this film. Now, Tom Hiddleston, the perfect villain once again as Loki, just chewing up the scenery with grimy evil. There's nothing I can say bad about this movie, except maybe that it has to end eventually, but I'll just watch it again anyway, And big time props for a couple smaller players. Everyone's favorite Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg, I think is the actor's name, and I have gotten a kick out of his myriad appearances in the Marvel movies up until now. And, what happens to this guy's story in this movie I was surprised how impactful it was, not only to the characters around him, but to me, the viewer. It was a big shocker. I didn't see that one coming. And of course, you had the delightful Kobe Smulders, who really, I've never watched How I Met Your Mother. I don't care about that show. I will probably never care about that show. And, that's about all I knew was where this woman came from. And as far as I'm concerned, it didn't matter whatsoever. She kicked a lot of ass in this movie. So I was definitely very impressed. I mean, I was impressed all around. And there's a reason why this film is being called the greatest superhero movie of all time. The greatest movie of all time. It's because everything was put together so beautifully, and I think we have Joss Whedon and the writers of the film, as well as the actors in the piece, as far as being credited to that, because they all came together. They all put something together that was just absolutely fantastic. They were all in play throughout the entire movie. No one took up more screen time than the other. It was truly about a team. It wasn't about, hey, these are our three headliners and these are the characters in the background. This was everybody's movie, and they all came and they all batted it out of the park. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, there are so many quotable lines from this movie that I picked up on and I've been seeing online, but really didn't know the significance of puny God. I mean, what Hulk does to Loki had me cracking up. I literally stopped the damn DVD, went back, and I watched it about 3 times, just losing it. I mean, it's that kind of movie. And I think it will only possibly be outdone by the next wave of Marvel movies. And I mean, I loved the hell out of it. I'd love to hear from you guys what you thought of it below if you've seen it by now. And otherwise, that's going to be it for me. So I hope you're all doing well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.